Welcome into this week's episode of The Big Three. I'm Heather Harrington. He is Will West. And jumping right into it, Will, the Masters this week. We saw some incredible weather and then some shaky performances by some big names. You also saw world's number one, Dustin Johnson, not even be able to tee off on that first hole, had to withdraw. But my question is, where in the world did Charlie Hoffman come from, and how did he put on that performance?
I'm pretty sure that he was one of those guys was on Saturday Night Live right after like that Mike Myers and Dana Carvey group left. He was one of those bit guys for a little while before like Tina Fey, Jimmy Fallon came along. No, look, huge round for Howell. I mean, it's the biggest lead anyone's had day one in 62 years. That's incredible. Look at those names right behind there. Justin Rose, though, at 2 under. Spieth shoots 1 under if he doesn't have that 9 on one hole, and then tied for 4th right now, lefty. So don't be surprised if we see big names on Sunday.
So I think you're going to see this from the Masters going forward. You're either going to see Charlie Hoffman come back to the pack and really shake things up, or you might even be able to see him build on this lead and keep it running. Either way, I'm tuned in totally all weekend long. Second big question. You know, you hear a lot of athletes want to take a stand politically. And one of the famous things right now is, do you go to the White House and meet the president even if you can't stand their guts and they're not related to your political ideology?
Right now you have, it was a big question this week because Roy Williams ducked the question after Carolina won the men's NCAA tournament. Yep. Don Staley said, no, we're going to the White House after South Carolina won the women's tournament. So to me, this is deeply personal. I didn't have a problem with Tim Thomas with the Boston Bruins not going to meet President Obama. If players from North Carolina don't want to go, I don't have a problem with them not going. You'd like to see everybody go because you create change through relationship, not by simply not showing up and avoiding people. But if they don't go, I won't criticize them like I didn't criticize Thomas.
I would be very disappointed, especially if it was someone from a team that I liked, if they chose to not go visit the White House. And the biggest thing to me is you respect the office no matter who is in there. That's how I was raised. It's yes, sir, Mr. President. And I don't care if he's a Republican, a Democrat. Shoot, it could even be Ross Perot in there. If they don't want to go, I'll line up and go for them. But I think you do respect the office. Finally today, halfway through Tennessee's football season, we finished practice 8, headed to practice 9 this weekend. What have we actually learned, Will West, about Team 121?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What we're getting is repetitions for guys who can be backups and maybe add depth during fall camp and during 2017 season. That's the only thing we're getting right now because you just don't have position battles that are going to be fleshed out before you get to fall camp. You're not going to know who the quarterback is. If they do know, they're not going to announce it because you don't want someone to transfer. True. So right now, all you're seeing is third-string tackles, defensive tackles, getting an opportunity to work their way into the rotation and maybe be second-string guys.
I think you are learning a little bit about contingency plans. If stuff were to hit the fan again this year from an injury perspective, like it did last season, it seems to be all of Butch Jones's tenure, what do they do? Ja'Shawn Robertson taking snaps at center since Coleman Thomas is out. You're learning some switches on the offensive line. Who could slide down and play guard? Especially if Brett Kendrick comes back healthy. He's one of those guys. He's got a lot of reps in him at different positions. He would be one of those keys. But as far as the meat and potatoes of this team, you're right. We haven't learned anything.
Not a thing.
And for today's extra credit question, we have to go to our special expert, always. Will John Currie be a better athletic director than his predecessor, Dave Hart? Magic 8 Ball says absolutely.
I think it would be hard not to be. Dave Hart did good things with the finances and good things with APR. Otherwise, though, I don't know if I've ever seen a power conference fan base more fractured from the leadership of their athletics department. And I also think I've never seen an athletics director napalm a revenue sport the way that Dave Hart did Tennessee men's basketball and running Konzo, bringing in Tyndall, and now Rick Barnes has to dig them out of the hole.
And really, they got lucky with Rick Barnes just on Texas.
Timing worked out perfectly,
Stupid mistake. The big thing is, are there positives from his tenure? Yes, absolutely. And I always try to point those out. Men's track and field, women's track and field, all that upgraded with Beth Alford. You've also had some some other programs. I mean, no doubt football is in a much better position
Yeah, it is.
than it was when Dave Hart took over. But as far as just absolutely not caring about other sports, I mean, John Curry's already blowing Dave Hart out of the water, and he's been in office 1 week. So here's fingers crossed to all programs being on a championship level at the University of Tennessee. That wraps it up for us on the Big Three. We'll be back next week.